Good morning, gardening friends. Today is Sunday, November 23rd, and here I am out in the Garçonniere watching Gardener's World. Let me go ahead and pause this. Needless to say, I've been working out here in the Garçonniere. I have artfully arranged the plants that I wanted out here. I brought in one of the better looking bromeliads, and I found the final spot for my ponytail palm. I think it's going to live there all year round since that is a southern facing exposure. And I brought in my pitiful looking desert rose, but it'll do well. That's what it looked like last year. And I did watch a lot of gardening shows like I usually do, but I decided to try something different this year, inspired by Garden Answer. I had this old soup tureen that an aunt had given me years ago. The lid had broken and the underplate had broken and the spoon had broken. All that was left was the bowl itself, and I thought, what can I do with that? And so I saved it. And needless to say, I put 3 Amaryllis in it. I had 2 that were refrigerated that I bought earlier in the year, but I bought a third one. And actually, the one that I bought recently is this one. They're all the Red Lion. And I thought I'd try something different by putting the moss on top of the pot. Never did that before. Will do it again, but I am a little bit the wiser now. I bought it at Hobby Lobby and covered the pot over with it. And they didn't tell you on the gardening show that stuff stinks. So I Googled it. Google is my best friend. I said, how do you get sheet moss to stop stinking? So it said to wash it with maybe a little touch of soap, dishwashing soap. So I picked off all the moss, brought it in my kitchen sink, and put a little dab of soap in there and rinsed it in cool water. And sure enough, the smell went away. Then I was faced with another problem. The fluorescent green color had detached itself a little from the moss and now was all over the bottom of my kitchen sink. So next time I do that, I will do it in a bucket. But in any event, I was able to scrub it out with a little barkeeper's friend, but it really attached to my old porcelain sink. So needless to say, I've got some Amaryllis fixing to come here. I do get a lot of magazines, gardening magazines, so I get 2. This is an advert that I got because of the gardening magazines. The tear is courtesy of the post office. But I thought, I get ideas. They're way too expensive to buy from them, but I get ideas to do things myself. And one of the things I saw was paper white and amaryllis blooming at the same time. Now they're charging $64 for that. And you can get the bulbs themselves for, let's see, the amaryllis is about 10, and it says 5 of the others. Those are 15. So for $25, you can get the bulbs. And if you have a pot and you can grab dirt, it's $25 versus $64. So needless to say, I may try that. I have enough paper whites to do it, but not in this. This I wanted just the 3 amaryllis bulbs. I will plant those bulbs outside after they bloom. I also went antiquing this week and bought an old retro alarm clock. I remember having one of those growing up. And I bought a chair. It's basically the same style, Klizmo's Duncan Fife. I actually kind of like the upholstery that was on it. It was from a set of 2, but they were selling them separately. And I only needed one. I had one like this, only it was an armchair. And it got wobbly with time, and I was afraid to sit on it for fear that it would collapse. So I gave it to a friend and decided to get a new chair for my desk area. I was debating whether to put the desk area here or on this thing, and I decided this is better for plants because it's not wood. And so I got the little desk area. I don't need the mouse pad and the mouse but I'm old-fashioned. I kind of like to use them. I also bought the umbrella stand so I could keep a couple of umbrellas out here. But I happened to shop. I was talking to a friend this week, and she had said, well, if you're thinking of getting a computer, you might want to look now before Black Friday and get some Black Friday deals. Let me sit down here so I can get at it. And in any event, this is my receipt. So I can read you what I found. But basically, I Googled different options. I tried getting a television out here, but it was too weak in terms of picking up my Wi-Fi from the house. So when I brought my old laptop out here, it picked up fine. So I thought, well, let me try just getting an inexpensive computer. And so I found this, and it turned out I got a Black Friday deal. It's a Lenovo IdeaPad Slim 3 Chromebook laptop, 14-inch full HD touchscreen. So it's basically for getting stuff from the internet. So downloading, or not downloading, but what do you call it? Streaming. And that's all I wanted to do. Is I just got BritBox, hence I'm watching Gardener's World. And I will probably do my videos out here, edit them. Well, I don't do a lot of editing, but upload them from here. So this will become my little office space. So in any event, I really like the new computer. It was really easy to set up. It's a Chromebook, really easy to set up. So that was another purchase. I have decided, I've had those Pussy Willows for over 15 years, but I didn't have room on this tabletop now with the computer. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to put a pile of books there. But since this is a real tile floor, I don't want to put my good books against the floor, so I've got to come up with some solution to put something under the first book to stop dampness from coming up. But we'll get to it eventually. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I did in here. Not really. It was mostly, believe it or not, the silliest thing was artfully arranging the plants, trying to figure out what to do with them, and leave them in a spot. This ponytail palm is getting unwieldy heavy. So I also bought the little blue pillow, or green pillow. That was the other thing I got. So needless to say, this room is basically complete, but for something to put underneath a stack of books. And I will bring other books out here. I used to have books in past all through those shelves, but also in past, I wasn't here the whole year. I used to go away up to New York to visit my mom, take care of her, whatever, for 6 months out of the year. And through the summers, the books would get mildew. So I didn't keep anything that could possibly go bad out here. There's some residue of books there. But since I have an overflow of books now, and I'll be using this room and keeping it air conditioned, I will probably bring more books out here. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to mention was this was the week of the daffodil. I put them on the floor because I didn't have room on the desk. I'll show them to you. Sorry about the noise. Lowe's happened to have a half-price sale. They knocked down the prices of all of their bulbs, and they still had tulips. But as I've said before, you're wasting your money, in my opinion, if you try growing tulips in a zone 9A or higher. Because you really have to refrigerate them, and they won't come back. They're basically an annual. Some of the other hyacinths will come back 1 year, but you do have to refrigerate those. You don't have to refrigerate daffodils. So I found that out last year. I used to refrigerate them, but last year I just put them in, and so that's what I'm going to do this year. So I got a dozen. I basically put in, 13, 14, 15, 16 dozen tulips. Not tulips, daffodils. Oh, by the way, I was going to get some kit for daffodil planting, bulb planting. I've seen a lot of shows that use augers and special drill. You need a special drill with a clutch so that if you hit a stone or a rock, it doesn't twist your arm and break a bone. So I happened to go on a website. It is Garden Answer. I'm not saying this in any negative way. It just was not a purchase for me. But to get the package deal for a couple of augers and the drill was about $500 without shipping. Now, if you're young enough, you might get the good out of that. But being that I am 70, I don't think I'm going to get the good out of that. So I decided to plant by hand. So these are the ones I planted. Nice follies. I got a lot of red trumpets. I like that look. That was basically the first daffodils that I ever grew back in New York where I grew up. I think I got it when I was in high school. Probably now, what, 50 years ago? And back in the day, you had to get it from mail order because there were no Lowe's and Home Depots, and no one carried bulbs locally. So you'd get them through the mail. Of course, you'd had no one, our family didn't have a checking account, so you'd have to go and get a special thing called a mail order from the post office in order to get it delivered. And I remember that was the first daffodil that I saved up my allowance and got and fell in love with it. So I know this has another name now. Well, I guess it's just called red trumpet, so it's a generic name. But they do come back here. So I got a bunch of those. I think I got 4 packets of those. This one I only bought a 6-pack. It's small. They're mini daffodils. And I planted them right outside the door in the little trough there. And already the cats have dug one up. Bought some of these. Infrared, which is a double. Doubles tend to come back. So I thought I would try doubles. Got some golden ticket. I got some double chance. And, tippy toe is the small one. That's what I planted in that trough. Which was the other one? Oh, sunny cheerfulness. I have a bunch. Those I got, I think, a dozen. So I planted them around, mostly in the front yard. I'll tell you where when we get there. I brought this watering can out of retirement. I bought this years ago at Lowe's thinking, oh, a copper watering can. How nice. It is a piece of whatever. Because the little tube comes out of the very bottom of the can, and in order to tip it to get the very last of it out, you're sloshing water all over the place. It was an absolute waste of money. So I kind of relegated it to a closet, but it looks so nice that I thought I would just keep it out here. I do have water in it, so that way I can water my plants with a little bit of a reservoir. And I also got this through the mail. I like Time candles. This sounds like a commercial. But if you want a Christmas candle, it's called Fraser Fir from Time, Thyme. But if you want a Christmas candle that smells actually of a real live Christmas tree, when it's burning, a lot of them smell like it without burning, but when they burn, they get nasty. This one smells actually like a Christmas tree when burned. I got that from Amazon. It is open because of the stink that was produced by putting that moss here for 2 days before I decided to wash it. So it's still kind of getting rid of the smell that's incorporated in this room. Let's go outside for a walk. Enough talking inside. We did get a little bit of a rain last night, but not really enough to register in my rain gauge. Of course, you still see the geraniums or pelargoniums. My little bay tree is still there. All of the flowers have come off the mandevilla. And here's where I replanted this pot because either birds or cats or something dug it up. Whenever I plant bulbs, an animal will come through, probably a raccoon, and dig them up. I guess it senses that the ground was disturbed. But the one good thing about daffodils is they are toxic to everything. There is not an animal that will take more than 1 bite out of them. So you'll give them 1 bite, but that'll be it. This plant is going to come in when it gets really cold. That is my, gosh, I can't think of it. It's related to Amaryllis. I'll think of it later. Oh, I have a tag in it. Just couldn't see the tag. Clivia or Clivia. That I got from a seedling many years ago, and it was just one, and it has split. It does really well. Has not bloomed yet. It's supposed to be yellow. So we shall see. Of course, I've got Time. This deck gets full sun in the wintertime. So even though it's a small deck, it does get sunny and plants will grow there. My herbs are looking better. I, of course, transplanted parsley, sage, course, the rosemary was there. The thyme dies out in the winter, and this is the time of the year to plant it, no pun intended, because it will last all winter. I still have my butterfly gingers are in bloom. Very fragrant. I do need to water. This is dry not from lack of water, but because of the cold snap we had the one day last week or one night last week. Here's another indica camellia that is blooming. It's a no-name variety. Those of you that have been with me long enough, my advice to you if you buy camellias is, even if you get them from a reputable source, if you see them in person, is your best bet, and buy them in bloom so you know what you're getting. Because I've even had reputable dealers in town, they've since gone out of business, but they said one thing and bloomed something else. These I got many years ago from an older woman. This was when I was back in my 30s, well, maybe 40s. In any event, she was old, probably as old as I am now. Beehive hairdo with the black horn rim glasses. Be that as it may, with a cigarette going all the time. But she used to sell camellias that she propagated herself, or I guess grew from seed or multiplied, whatever. But I fell in love with these because they're a double, and they are red splotched white. I tried to get different colors of camellias. The camellias in the corners, and there are a red color. There used to be one here. It may come back again. I had to cut it down this year, as well as the satsuma that I cut down that was there. The cats are out today. There's Fluffy, and there is Felix, his brother. I have 3 more kittens that I'm trying to scare out of the backyard because I don't want to be another kitten factory, as I was earlier in the year. So I have a little spritz bottle trying to get them out of the backyard. I may actually call the Humane Society and see what it would take to have them removed. I hate to say that, but there are only so many cats one can have in the backyard before they start damaging and ripping up everything. There's my Ligularia that has come back. There's Peanut wanting to play with all the other cats. He's the only one that's fairly tame. I can pet him. And I've learned from trying to tame his sister and get her fixed that you only have one chance to get them in that cat box and bring them to a vet. So when I capture him, I will get him fixed and shot and everything in one fell swoop. Bananas, you can see, are coming back from the cold snap. Here you can see the kittens have knocked in my seashells that I had lining that. Oh, I got some more Spanish moss this week. I'll tell you a story. I go with a friend of mine. I drive him to his urologist whenever he needs to go. And it's in downtown Mobile, and they have trees just draping in Spanish moss. And usually there are clumps all over the ground, so I go and pick them up because Spanish moss won't live on the ground. It will die. So I don't feel guilty. If I take it off the trees, I feel guilty because I'm basically stealing it, but I figure if it's on the ground, it's going to get mowed or it'll die anyway, so those are the ones I pick up. So needless to say, I picked up a bag. Unfortunately for me, I didn't get as much as I would have liked because they decided at the hospital where he goes to put out fresh pine straw. They had the nerve to cover up all of their Spanish moss, but I was able to get more. But I'm probably a very bad person because this should have been my friend's final trip to the urologist. But they found a kidney stone, which he's going to have sonically removed in a couple of months. So I get to go back one more time with him and get some more Spanish moss. I'm a terrible person. But I believe in making lemonade out of lemons. If you're going to be stuck there, you might as well see what you can get. My lady palm, Rapsis something or other, is still doing well. The cold didn't get it because it's in a great microclimate underneath the protection of this Pindo palm. That particular bromelia has been in that pot. Well, not that particular one, those are pups. Every now and then it'll bloom and then it'll die, but it has a bunch of pups. But I've got that on sale at Lowe's probably about 8 years ago. I do bring that in if we have a hard frost, but just a dip down chill at night doesn't usually bother it because it's tucked against the wall. That's the nice thing about little microclimates. They keep things a tad warmer. This was not protected. It's wilting now because of lack of moisture. But in here all is well. That's the sink. Oh, the sun is in your eyes. It's in my eyes too. How can I get here and take a picture of it? That's the Sanqua in the corner. Has stopped blooming. Here you can see the flowers on my Fatsia japonica. They have a peppery scent. These are starting to bloom. The ones on the tippy top were nipped by the cold weather that we had. I used to have a second palm tree here. This is a windmill palm, and it was the V shape. But the other one I had to take out, was it this year or last year? I took it out 1 year. I think it was last year. But when the story, part of that story, or where I was going with that, is that side didn't get hit as much as this one did because it's protected by the palm overhead, and this one used to be. However, that palm is now gone. And this stuff is some kind of fungus many, many years ago in a land far, far away. I had an old oak tree here that was, I could not hug it and get my arms around it. It was removed when part of it snapped in a storm. And so this stuff comes up every year from the roots, I'm presuming from the roots of it. And it gets really nasty. They're fresh and white. They start out like this. It's just a little teeny tiny thing. And then they grow into these humongous. Well, that might be something different. But they take my word for it. They start out white and then turn yellow and eventually turn brown and yucky. Animals tend to eat them. I don't know if they come back for them, but to be careful not to step in that slimy goo. Here you can see the damage from that one-day cold snap that we had. However, I pointed out last week, you can also see all the new sprouts. It didn't kill but the tips. And so that plant wants to live so badly it is sending back all kinds of new growth. That growth is perfect when it gets a little bit longer to take for cuttings. However, these this is a pink angel's trumpet, that's a peach angel's trumpet, and I have a white one at the far corner over there. They are root hardy, and I've got enough. This backyard, I've been gardening here now for 31 years. I don't have any more room for more stuff, so the only way I plant something new is if something old dies, and that does happen. One thing to think of when you're planting plants is they do have a lifetime. So, you know, they don't live forever. Depends on what you plant. That was the case with the windmill palm that had died out. It just withered and died. So, go figure. It lived a good life. There is a picture of my Phoenix canariensis, or Canary Island date palm. It's finally gotten its large fronds back. Back in here, all is well. Oh, there's Peanut. That's why the bird is squeaking, because Peanut and I can't tell which cat that is, because the ginger, I can't tell the difference between Fluffy and Felix unless I see the tail. Oh, the other thing I did this week. Remember I was saying how, we don't want to capture him doing a poo, but if you look there, last week there was nothing in this spot, and I was saying I wanted to put my queen ginger there. Well, I went, oh good, lay in the mud, just what you need to do. I decided rather than a queen ginger there that I would plant another bottle brush. I want to call it a tree, bottle brush bush. This one said it was sold as hardy bottle brush that apparently will grow down to a zone 7 is what it said. So I may have better luck with that one. I used to have one over there and it died this year. Don't know why, it just up and died. I had a bunch of things up and die on me this year. But I figured I would try a bottle brush tree there. And of course my cryptomerias, they seem to like it. That was where I used to have the Chemiociferous. But they were finicky. These are not. These tend to do well well, I have one in the front yard that does really well. There are the close-up of the fruits on the unripe fruits on the Pindo palm. It's also called jelly palm. Here is where I planted a bunch of daffodils. Over there and over there. I planted them in 4 clumps. 2 on this side, 2 on that side. And those are the yellow and red, the first ones that I got as a child. Many, many moons ago. Back in here, all is well. I'm going to leave the frangipane out until the leaves die off. And then I'll be bringing it right inside that door when that happens. Oh, I see another sprout on my white angel's trumpet. That would be a perfect one to take as a cutting. I think I told y'all before, when you take a cutting, you want to take it, like if I took the cutting, I would cut it right here, because the roots are going to be produced at a node. And I'd probably take all these leaves off. I've had luck in a glass of water. I stick it, I should say in a jar. You don't want to use a glass because they are highly poisonous and, toxic. Poisonous if you have enough of them. You don't want to use something that you're going to reuse potentially, like a glass to drink out of. I actually have a dedicated canning jar I use for propagation. Here all is well. Still have blooms on my Encore azalea. And Thanksgiving is this Thursday, and of course my kumquats are ready. I'll pick a handful of the most orange ones. I don't like the insides of them. I like the taste of them. You eat the entire thing. You eat the husk or the skin and all, but these have seeds in them. So what I do when I make my cranberry kumquat jelly is I cut the kumquats up into slices, kind of like you see with jalapeno peppers. When you see, like if you go to a sub shop or something that has the peppers on the side. So I do little discs of that. That way you can pick the seeds out of it. And then I just throw it in the cranberries when I make the fresh cranberry sauce. Of course, I got my fountains going. They make a nice noise when the cats aren't messing with them. It has more than one waterfall. That's why I have the shells inside of it. I got that waterfall at an antique shop, so it was designed to have more flows than just the one, but you have to fuss with it to get it that way. Let's see what's going on. I don't think there's anything new on the deck. We'll take a quick walk up there. I'm feeding the cats on top of the table because that at least delays the kittens from jumping up there, and the older cats can get a chance to feed before the kittens swarm them out. My cyclamen are doing fine. I did notice that Lowe's had different color cyclamen, but I've got these, and these will last through March as long as I protect them. And of course my Nepenthes, having cut the long branches, those of you that are new, these they stretched all the way to the watering cans. Oh, it was odd last night, the first time I've had my gutter be used, to not have any water dripping along this deck. So from now on, this used to be the wettest spot on the deck where the water would drip, and now it'll be the driest in future. I'm probably going to be losing that can. It is where I store my cushions. It's not trash, but I'm thinking now that I have this gutter stopping water from running, I may actually invest in one of those posh storage units and stick it in the middle there in lieu of that rickety table. They sell those tables at Lowe's. They're a waste of money. You can't store anything heavy on them. They are wobbly, and after 2 years being exposed to weather, they start to flake off the paint. It was really a waste of time getting it. However, I thought a nice chest over there would be perfect and fill that spot. There's one of the new kittens. This is my, what is that? That's the nun's orchid. I do have to protect that. That'll go in and live inside the garçonniere when the time comes, when we have frost. And these will as well either go into the house. They just go in for the night. I believe some of them, that is a North American plant, the, I want to call it Sansevieria. That's not what it is. I can't think of it, but the pitcher plant. And they'll freeze down to the ground, but they should come back. I've never let them freeze that much. I'll think of the name later, or else put it in the right up underneath the posting of this video. Sarracenia. Sansevieria is mother-in-law's tongue, which actually no longer exists. Not the mother-in-law's tongue, but they don't call it Sansevieria anymore. They call it something else now. The name has changed due to genetic discoveries. Here is my Yuletide. I have to admit, I like my Yuletide a little less than I used to. I'm fickle. The main reason, this used to be really high and I cut it back, but they installed them in the divider in the street just up from me, so they're so common now. But they're still a pretty flower. I'm trying to look for one that's still fresh. Not that one. By the way, that is a bad thing about camellias. You don't want to plant them near a walkway because they will rain down petals like snow. That's as good as we're going to get for today. There's been no activity at this feeder, so I'm going to replace it with a lantern. We may actually get some flowers on this lily of the valley bush. Pieris. Sometimes I don't pronounce that, enunciate it properly. Japonica. These flowers were knocked off yesterday in the rain, but they are a beautifully, again, a no-name variety. I got this many years ago at Walmart. I used to have two. I had one more over here. That was in my camellia collecting craze. And then after I got all the camellias I wanted, it's like, well, now let's make sense of the collection. And it didn't make sense to have two camellias exactly the same right there. So I tried transplanting it. And you'll notice that it exists nowhere else in my backyard. It did not take to transplanting very well. Here's where I planted more daffodils. I put those same yellow and orange daffodils in between the paper whites. These are all the paper whites, especially those down there from last winter. They may or may not bloom this year. This is typically where all of my paper whites, once having bloomed, will go to live. They will occasionally bloom again. However, I don't really care. There's something green coming up in the garden and sort of gives you hope that something may occur. And back in here is where I put some other daffodils. And this was like planting in concrete. Hopefully they'll come up. This sidewalk was put in about 5 years ago, and I used to have the gravel like I have in my parking pads. And under that gravel is landscape fabric. And so the pathway through the years, the gravel blew into the garden beds. So it was quite rocky in there. So we'll see what happens. flowers are now officially all gone from my toad lily. I will give honorable mention to these things, Aztec grass. They're one of the few things that I can plant in these odd-shaped planters. I bought them because I like the color, but they're not very realistic planters because you can't put an awful lot in them. They're a beautiful dark green color and they have nice markings on the sides of them, but really impractical. So I put the Aztec grass in it, and it's one of the few things that will live in our climate that doesn't require a lot of maintenance. I do throw water on them when I water back in here. Frost has definitely hit the Datura, but it still has some green. Oh, I promised my Aunt Pat I was going to save her some seeds from this. Hopefully I'll come back here today. Yeah, there are a lot of seeds in there. It is very, prolific, I guess, with the seeds, and they're very fertile. They will come up. Here you can see this huge lavender. That's been there for quite a few years. I will pick these tomatoes this week. After we had the cold snap, a lot of the tomatoes suddenly went to ripening, which is good. I could bring that in, but I don't want a tomato in my new garçonniere. I'm getting hoity-toity now. I wouldn't have thought twice about it last year. You can see the white doves are starting to look a little tatty, but it's still a beautiful flower. It is a sasanqua camellia, similar to the, what is it? Yuletide is also a sasanqua. All sasanquas are camellias, but not all camellias are sasanquas. It's a subdivision. My Australian tree fern is doing fine. It, of course, would have looked better had the roofers not dropped a lot of stuff on it. However, it's still green. Frost is going to knock it back anyway. That's the main reason I wanted the roof done this time of the year, was minimal damage to my plants. I do need to get some fence work done when we get a killer frost, because I have some pieces of fence that need to be replaced. Back in here, all is well. The lettuces I planted are still doing fine. I did get another sage, because I had a sage there, and it had just gotten real ratty looking. I don't know why. I will get rid of the pumpkins this next trash day. Of course, I have some curly leaf parsley over here. I tried putting flat leaf parsley here, but my neighbor Sarah's cats apparently like flat leaf parsley, and they kept chewing on it. They don't seem to like the curly leaf quite as much. These lavenders are doing fine. This is one that likes its life, because I just planted that about 1 or 2 months ago. I had one like that, and it eventually died. There's only one type of lavender that'll grow well for me in my zone 9A. And let me see if I can position myself. If I put this phone too horizontal, it'll shut off. So it is a Goodwin Creek. So if you can get a hold of a Goodwin Creek and you're in zones 9A, well, I'm in 9A. I can't guarantee it'll grow in an 11 or whatever, but it does do well in a 8B, 9A, because I used to be 8B. Also bought me some dill, and I will sprinkle some dill seeds around the bottom. I bought dill plants. The price of plants has really gone up this fall. I don't know if any of y'all have noticed. I'm sure you have. I don't feel so bad about my opuntia, because my friend that went to the urologist, a neighbor up the street, has an opuntia like mine, and the exact same thing happened to theirs. It just got so tall that it eventually flopped over. So it may have been immaterial that mailbox was taken out. It's just something they do. I know they do that up north. It was just a shock, because these had been upright for 25 years plus, and then suddenly they toppled over. Again, I will deal with them in the spring or whenever I get tired of seeing them this way. I'm tempted to do so. I gave some cuttings to a guy that came by that asked for some. I will gladly give cuttings to people, and I'll take them from areas that I don't plan on using. But my goal for the spring is to put a piece in here to thicken out the front of it again. The space between it and the fence is unusable because you can't really get at it. So the good thing is it belongs in a potager because they are edible. The new pads I've had so far, the people that did my actual roof were Hispanic. I don't know from where. I'm guessing South America somewhere, or possibly Mexico. But they were pointing out that these pads are edible. Not these, but the young ones in the spring are. So it goes along with the food. I do have the dianthus, and dianthus also are edible. The flowers are. Back in here, let's see what the bananas at the street look like. See how they were exposed to the cold. Well, I don't need to go any farther than this. They look actually pretty good. Again, they were probably in a protected zone because of the loquat over the top. So they had a nice little system set up there. Here's where I planted a bunch of daffodils last year. You can see some of them coming up. And I planted farther out this year, but I put some more daffodils around the corner as well as on the other side. So I should have a good display of daffodils. I think it's either 14 or 15 dozen that I planted. I'm done planting daffodils. It's not too bad when you do a couple dozen at a time. Here's the other cryptomeria that I had that has approximately doubled in height. That was the reason why I planted those two in the back, because this one seems to like its life when it's not being bullied by the Nandina. I'll have to clean out some of the sprouts. Now I see why they don't sell the old-fashioned Nandinas. All of these are free because next to that White Dove's Camellia was the one old-fashioned Nandina that has given birth to all of the other Nandinas on my property. They're that prolific with little pups that come out, or shoots that come out on the side. They are a bamboo. They're called heavenly bamboo, I think is the common name of them, but in any event, they will spread like wildfire. I like them by the street. This one finally got tall enough that when I'm lying in bed, or laying in bed, when I'm in bed, they block the view of oncoming cars up the street here, because there was a gap in my window. That's why I put the banana trees out in front. Those bananas are doing well, by the way. They were not as affected by the frost. You can see just the top leaves got hit, but the ones underneath the overhang were fine. That is one of the warmer zones in the of the house. Acacia still in bloom. It's later than the ones in the backyard. And something ate. Probably a bird. Ate I had a couple of black figs and never got to taste them. Something else beat me to it. Well, now without the leaves, they are just beckoning every bird in the neighborhood to say, "Eat me, eat me." Especially since they come here to drink and eat. Back in here, all is well. I think I planted daffodils here. But to be truthful, I planted so many, I'm not certain. I'm pretty sure I planted some daffodils in that circle. Yeah, I'm pretty much sure I did, because I see the wandering dude was savagely cut back. And back in here, not much new is happening. The camellias haven't opened yet. Nothing new. They're later. Of course, the indicas tend to be later blooming camellias. So you'll see more about them as they bloom. This one is my favorite. I hope it blooms this year well. It's the Professor Sargent. It's an old-fashioned camellia. It's apparently was a good rooting stock. A lot of breeders use their roots to graft onto. Little tidbit, use it as you will. These are daffodils I planted last year. I don't see any sprouts yet, but again, ever hopeful. And these are the red lion amaryllis that I had some of them last year. Every year I plant the red amaryllis, those 3 that are in the garage right now, in the garçonnière right now, will come out here and live. They'll stay green until a hard frost kills them back. And then in the spring, the new growth will come with the flowers. And there is a little bee working over the wandering dude. They do love the flowers on the wandering dude. Let's see, I think that's about it out here. Let's take a quick walk inside. Wipe my feet good because I've been tracking all kinds of mud. I do like my new carpets from Amazon because they catch the mud. I no longer track wet footprints through the house between the floor mat outside and the floor mat inside. Of course, I don't want to brag too much because you never know what will happen. In here, all is well. These are the bulbs I started, 3 weeks ago now? Only 1 bud so far on these are apple blossom amaryllis. And the paper whites are doing well, but I don't see any flower buds yet. And a little tip, if you grow paper whites, they do not like, I'm trying to think of how to say this, they don't like breezes. And I have the heat and AC blows through here, so I've kind of protected them by backing them up against the, under the protection of the fiddle-leaf fig as well as that cactus. And because if you, it doesn't take much to have them flatten out. And I hate to have to support them if I can avoid it. We had a tickle in my throat all of a sudden. Poinsettia, I'm going to leave here for now. I would usually keep it out in the garçonnière. I may put it on that little table that I have out there. I haven't decided. That's where it spent all summer. That one I've had quite a few years, and it blooms quite, what's the right word? Religiously. Every February. A little late for Christmas, but beautiful nonetheless. There is another one of the bromeliads that I got. I bought those years ago as a single, actually it was a double plant, and they bloomed and those were pups. And the one that I brought in here looks the best. It remained its gray color. And the 2 I left on the back deck, one of which is now in the garçonnière, lost the gray color. They were more green. This may go out to the garçonnière as well. That would be a perfect plant for on that little table out there because the it's tall enough. It'd seem like a jungle inside. I've got plenty of winter to mess around with it. But yes, other than that, let's see, we might as well say hello to Miss Mimi while we're inside. Nothing much has changed here. I finally got rid of the flowers, or 1 stalk of flowers on the amaryllis. I guess the new Spathiphyllum bloom has come out. They are pretty. They are also messy. Right now it's beautiful. All is well. As they age, they're going to get a white powder that will sprinkle all over everything like flour. But right now it's pretty. I'm trying to think. Oh, I'm keeping the spider mites at bay. I need to spray this. I may spray this today just to get it over with. The aspidistra that I have in the house, it tends to get spider mites along these bottom parts. It still has a few flakes, but they may be dead. I don't know. The neem oil that I spray with, well, it's prepared, does kill them, but it only kills the live ones, so the eggs will live on and rehatch. And of course, I still have the pathos. I've got to get that to a sunnier spot because it is definitely rooted. And, oh, I thought I had blooms here, but it's Miss Mimi's mouse. It's not the flower. Oh, I do have a bloom. Here's a bloom of my Thanksgiving cactus. They live here, and I don't do anything special to have them bloom, and they tend to just do it on their own. But they live here all year round. Haven't been repotted for over 5 years. I do fertilize. I fertilize every other time I water, and I just use plain old Miracle-Gro. In here, flowers are still on this Phalaenopsis, although they are falling right and left, but I got the good out of it. I also splurged and bought a couple more pillows. I got the maroon. It's funny how things go when you decorate in the house. I got that new maroon hassock about 3 months ago, and I have maroon, of course, in the quilt that's on my day bed / hospital bed. And I thought I'd bring the maroon out. So then, of course, I bought these 2 pillows to match that. And then, of course, since they had others that match this color, I thought, well, let me go ahead and get the matching set. So that way, before they go away, and I have second thoughts, I've got all the pillows I'd ever need there. Actually, there's a little too many, but it's comfortable. And there is Miss Mimi sitting in the sun. Hello there, Miss Mimi. You going to say hi? Yeah? You doing okay? I'll leave you be. I guess I'll leave you with a picture of Miss Mimi in the sun. Take care for now.